gang. Welcome to Your Marriage Matters with Jim and Christie Jacobus. Our goal is to help you lay the foundation of building the marriage and life you both have always dreamed of. Welcome to Your Marriage Matters with Jim and Christie Jacobus.
Hey there, gang. It's Jim.
And Christie
Jacobus with Your Marriage Matters, podcast number 114. And, babe, last week we talked about inspiration. And that was fun.
Yeah.
It was a good time. It's part of our acronym IDEA, idea, inspiration, discussion, education, and action. That's all a part of how we went from living in a sticks and bricks home to full-time in an RV. Mm-hmm. I'm having fun going through this. Are you?
I am, and it's really helping me to kind of go backwards and process things that we maybe should have done when we were going through this.
Oh, we did it perfectly.
No, I wish.
Well, again, we shared with you a story last week is that 2 Valentine's Days ago, we bought our first travel trailer, and then because of Christie's inspiration, we wound up just choosing to go full-time in one, and now here we are sitting in Dallas-Fort Worth, visited with the grandkids yesterday, just having a blast, living full-time in an RV, and we wanted to share with you the acronym IDEA, Inspiration, Discussion, Education, and Action, and today we're going to talk about discussion. Mm-hmm. We're going to give you some very specific, important parts to that, and we're going to give you a great exercise that you can use in your own marriage, so welcome. Glad you're here with us. If you're here for this for the first time, I would encourage you to go back and listen to 112 and 113 because in 112 we tell the full story. And last week we talked about inspiration. And, babe, I think inspiration is huge when it comes to all this. So if you're brand new, go check those out. Catch up on how we got to where we were. And for those of you who've been with us, we hope you're sitting there going, okay, I want to learn about discussion today. Mm-hmm. And we trust that you did your exercise last week on creating a bucket list. Mm-hmm. 5 for each of you and then 5 for your marriage because we want you to become intentional about inspiration. And again, for those of you who've been with us from the very start, thank you, or joined us along the way. We would have quit doing this a long time ago if it wasn't for all of your encouragement and how you've taught us through the podcast. So, babe, IDEA, a process for when we get inspired or excited about something to make sure we make the best decision possible. Mm-hmm. Inspiration is the match that lights it all, but short of the brilliant, immediate idea to, go to Cabo over a weekend or something like that, we're talking about bigger, more important decisions that are inspired that require some discussion.
Right.
I know. Let's talk about this.
I know there's a lot of times where people will make an impulsive decision to do something, buy something, a purchase that they wish they hadn't. So the discussion part is critical because it's that communication and problem solving and brainstorming that is so important to make sure that this is a wise due diligence for the couple. So when it comes to communication, it's going to be really important that the person who's probably the inspired one does their homework, has the information. As I said last week, the one thing that when I was doing this in my head, I had an idea, I had an inspiration, but I didn't have all the facts behind it. I really didn't have a lot of the details figured out.
Right.
So it's important that the person does their homework and has their information out so you can kind of sell your partner on the idea.
Well, now I don't know about selling your partner on the idea, but actually it is. That's what it is. I mean, I've been teaching salespeople for 30 plus years now, probably longer than that considering my own career. This is a persuasion thing here. And again, I think you're dead right. It's your idea. Do your homework. Mm-hmm. All right. If you really want to get your spouse to consider it. Now, I wouldn't say try to force your spouse to agree with you, but if it's a good idea and you do your homework, there's going to be a lot of things presented about why it's a good idea. And, you talk about do your homework. Even when you got inspired and you were excited about it, I did a little homework myself. I checked in to see if what Brian was asking for the trailer in the first place was a good price, and it wasn't. It was a little high.
The first
price, yeah. Now the second price, the reason I got excited eventually is because the second price was a really good price.
Yeah.
So that homework, and I shared with you, what I found out, hey, that's a little overpriced right now. And then when he called you and said, hey, I'll sell it to you for trade-in value. Now, we had enough data to know, okay, no, that's a good deal. Mm-hmm. All right, and that makes sense to move forward on. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important to do your homework, as you said, but also do your homework with what do you think your spouse is going to want to know.
Right. What is your spouse going to pay attention to?
Yeah.
And you know your spouse and what is their triggers or what is their things that they really want to know. Some spouses are motivated by security.
Yeah.
If this is a major financial decision, what does this mean? Because right now, and we've said this tons of times, this could be used for any kind of decision-making process. But what people can get thrown off on in buying an RV is they can make it sound so incredibly inexpensive. You can get into this RV for $400 a month.
Well, or a lot less, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, on smaller ones. So what would your spouse want to know? Is this a financial thing that they're going to have an emphasis is? What's going to cause them the problem? And do your homework. You come up with an innovative idea. Okay, now put the legs behind it.
Yeah, you just inspired me there. Because what I do, I teach salespeople. Right, how to convince their client to buy their product. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I could teach an entire sales class on how to get your spouse to buy your idea. Mm-hmm. What's their love language? What is it about the decision? And again, we're talking about RVs here, but it could be a new house, a new car, a new job, a new baby, or whatever. It could be moving to Dallas. It could be going to Cabo. What's your spouse's love language? Mm-hmm. Right? What's your spouse's relational needs? We've taught all this in back podcasts. What's your spouse's behavioral style?
Right.
All right. If they're a high D, get to the bottom line. If they're an analytical, what's the process?
Yeah.
What's the exact? All of those kinds of things, we tend to do that intuitively. Mm-hmm. But I'm talking about learning how to do it intentionally, and that's almost not fair, quite frankly.
Well, and we've said this before. Sometimes when you have a great idea, like in our case, you come up with a great idea, you don't want anybody to shoot it down.
Right.
But if you don't have the facts to back it up, then you really haven't given your partner much to work with. So if you do the hard work or do the work of finding out, all the details or a lot of the details so that you can at least start the discussion, then they can hopefully honor your dream.
Yeah.
Because you've done some work on it, and it'll show that you're really interested in this.
Yeah.
I remember there's been a lot of decision points in our marriage where you went and, bought a motorcycle. You had to do the discussion on it and try to sell me on it. That was probably a harder sell.
How long did we talk about that, too?
Oh, years.
Yeah.
Years. So a lot of times what we're telling people when they have this discussion is it's more than just, I'm going to say what I want. It's going to be, I'm going to say what my dream is, and here's all the process that I've went to make sure that you understand all that I've thought through in this process.
Yeah. And so it just was dawning on me, too, though, as we're teaching this, how important it would be for me to go, let me share with you what I'm excited about. I'm excited about A, B, and C. Mm-hmm. But, babe, I started asking myself, what would Christie think?
Mm-hmm. Right.
What would she think? Mm-hmm. And so I went and looked up how much it was going to cost, because maybe your spouse is more financially focused, or, would there be room for 2 kids? And so I looked at some floor plans with a bunkhouse, and, I know that you like to cook outside, so I looked at a floor plan with an outside kitchen. You ought to see them. They're really cool. Matter of fact, I got a video of one that I just thought ask yourself, what would my spouse be interested in? And know your spouse well enough to know, hey, these are the things I think they'd be interested in. These are the things that I think they would maybe be concerned about. Right. So know your spouse.
Yeah, and when you do your homework, try to be unbiased about what's going on. Try
as much as you can when you're excited. Don't let it kill your inspiration, for sure.
Because I'm saying sell your idea, but if your idea has some flaws in it, or if your idea has some problems, and you don't acknowledge those, then you probably don't have a good pitch for your idea.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
If there's a major flaw in it, be aware of that. And again, I would say you still don't not share the idea, but say, hey, look, I got an idea, went through the whole thing, I'm really excited about it, but I realized here's a stumbling block. Right. And so if it's okay with you, I'd like to start figuring out how we get rid of the stumbling block.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so that's when you're selling. Now, here's the struggle we have. Okay, I'm on the other end of this when you're telling me. Right? There's always going to be somebody who's inspired, unless it's co-inspiration. But there's always going to be the one that's like, sometimes may come out of left field. Where did that idea come from? Like this was. So if you're on the other end, I'm going to encourage you to listen well. Resist the temptation to go, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard.
Yeah.
Right?
Or that'll never work.
That'll never, oh my gosh.
All the things that shut down a conversation or communication. Oh, I've heard this before. Another one of your
crazy ideas. Yeah. Well, and again, I mean, how many people do you see in your counseling room that's one of the biggest sources of their problem?
Right.
Is one or both of them are always shooting down the other one's idea, and if it's not my idea, it can't be a good one.
Right. And to be an open listener, to listen to somebody and be a safe place where they can have a discussion, sometimes it's letting them be who they are. And there's a lot of times where I'll see couples who they don't even get to share their dream. This is their life, but they don't get to share it because they already know, they've had lame brain ideas before, or, this is the way they are, and their spouse just shuts them down. And sometimes it's a control issue, sometimes it's a communication issue, but being able to listen is very important.
Yeah. Awesome. So I think, again, do your homework if it's your idea and look at both sides of the coin. If it's not your idea, be an open listener. Be willing to hear. By the way, I would tell you that if you're a great listener and just ask some good, legitimate questions, you may help your spouse come to the point where they understand why it's not a good idea, or why it's not a good idea now, or it's not a good idea until. And that way you don't have to shoot it down. You just get to listen and let them process. Because sometimes, you and I have conversations, and in the process I go, oh, wait a minute, that's not going to work. We're really, I think we're getting better about that every day. We still want to get better, but those are two great deals. And so, babe, we're going to share with them a process they can use that has been taught in sales for years and years and years. And I think sometimes when salespeople hear it, they're like going, oh, God, not that again. But it's just that good of a process. And the story is Ben Franklin. All right, it's called the Ben Franklin. That's what it's called. If you want to look it up on Google, you can find it. It's called the Ben Franklin method. And it said that Ben Franklin, when he had to make a difficult decision, he would get out a piece of paper and he would draw a line down the middle of it and a line across the top. And on the left-hand side, he would say pluses, all the reasons why. And on the right-hand side, he'd write down negatives, all the reasons not to do that. And so, when we talk about doing your homework, first thing is, put the idea down, draw the thing on a piece of paper, literally, and go through all the pluses. And so, by the way, if it's your idea, you get to go plus. You get to go first.
Right. So when it comes to things that are positive that I want to share with you, because it was my idea, I want to go over all the facts that I found when I did my homework.
Right.
I want to just go through a process and said, here's what's going on. Here's my why.
Yeah.
Here's the why of selling my idea. So I'm going to list all those positives. But I'm going to ask you for you to come on board and share with me what you think might be a positive. So,
absolutely. And if it wasn't your idea, here's what I'm going to tell you. Fully participate in this. All right? Be a brainstormer. Shut off your bias. Shut off all your why it's a crazy idea. And listen to the things that your spouse loves about it. And fully participate in it. And have fun on the plus side. And so you're going to create a whole list of pluses, and it should be equally, it's not going to be equally contributed to, but don't just sit there and go, duh, I don't have a good thing to say about it.
Right.
That's just, that's not helpful, it's not productive, and it's not going to help your team get any better, that's for sure.
Well, and one of the things that we've said when we talked about conflict resolution is when we're in the midst of a conflict and we disagree on it, I should still be able to cite your reasons just as well as I could cite my own, because I've listened to you and I've taken those into consideration. I might not appreciate, I might not like the fact of you're disagreeing with me about what we want to ultimately do, but I am aware enough and I've listened enough that I can state your case for you.
Absolutely.
So that's why it's really important that when you're listing the positives, even if you don't maybe stand behind the idea, you could at least espouse, you could just at least have a conversation about it.
Here's what we tell you, or what we tell you based on our experience. You might not stand behind the idea yet.
Yes, that's true.
But if you really fully participate in this, by the way, it's going to come around again where you have an idea, and how you participated in this idea is going to dictate how your spouse is going to participate in the next idea. How many couples do we see that because one of them shot down her idea to begin with, next time he had an idea, she shot that down as a, and you know,
right.
So this becomes a habit, and that's what we want you to get out of.
And some people, and I think this is unfortunate, don't even share their ideas.
Right, exactly.
Because they say, I know what they're going to say. This is how they always treat me. I'm not even going to bring it up. Yep. And that, to me, is kind of sad. It's very sad because of the fact they don't even get to talk about it. They don't even get to give their ideal. Right. So
by the way, gang, if it wasn't your idea and you fully participate on the plus side, it's going to have some benefit when we get to the negative side.
Right.
Because then you can fully participate and share what you feel like are not the good ideas. So we wrote down all the pluses, we brainstormed it, and we can't come up with any more. Now we're going to go over to the negative side and start putting down all the cons or all the reasons why this may not be a good idea, may not be a good idea now. And we're going to brainstorm that. And what I would tell you is whoever idea it was gets to go first here as well.
On the cons.
On the cons. And so we want that person to, and by the way, this is where doing your homework comes in, okay, is if it wasn't your idea, then your job now is to fully participate in what the cons are.
Right.
And if it wasn't your idea, okay, and you fully participated in pluses, you've now earned the right to fully participate in negatives. We're just saying don't drop nuclear bombs in the middle of it simply because you added, oh, you know what? I do like the outdoors in November around the 7th when it's deer hunting season. And so I could, if you just gave a little bitty on the plus side, you can't drop a nuclear bomb on the negative side.
Right.
But it's designed, again, to be a positive process where both of you are contributing both the pluses and the minuses.
Right. And one of the things that I'll go back to is this is a discussion. On a big decision. It's a discussion that takes place over time. You said about dropping a nuclear bomb. Sometimes if somebody is totally not prepared, it's out of the blue, it seems like an impulsive decision. I think all of our reaction or reflex would be like, whoa, hold on just a second. You know, where did this come from? So if it's that type of decision where you have to make it pretty instantly, then that's one thing. But a lot of times I see situations, and I do this too, where I have this great idea and I'm so excited about it and I can't see the negatives because I want something and I want it so badly. So anyway, when we're looking at this, sometimes it's hard to see the opposite side. It's hard to see the cons. But now looking back on it, I thought, oh my goodness, how did I not realize it? Because I was blinded by my inspiration. So.
Well, and again, though, that's part of why we said listen to yourself, but at the same time do your homework.
Right.
You know, make sure that it's a good idea. And again, you know, we've taught so many things about time orientation and differences in personalities and all of that. You really need to know yourself well to know, okay, is this actually a good idea, or is this something that I have made a good idea because I like fill in the blank, and it probably isn't a good idea. Or same time go, no, this is a good idea because I am good at fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And again, we both have different skill sets, but learning to respect that is what would cause us to use this in a way that's very positive. So, gang, there's the whole deal. We're talking about discussion, all right? This is not decision making. This is discussion. And we want you to do two things. One is do your homework. If it's your idea, think about what would your spouse want to know. Don't just get zeroed in on why you think it's a great idea. Second thing is, if it's not your idea, be a great listener. Don't just shoot the idea down because it wasn't your idea, and you just find out that so many more fun things are going to happen in our marriages, that vibrant, healthy marriage. But then we want you to use, quote, the Ben Franklin, and brainstorm all the positive, brainstorm all the negatives. By the way, a quick little note here we didn't share. Just because the positives have 27 things on there and the negatives only have 4, if one of those negatives is big enough, it can really literally wipe out the other 27 good ideas.
Right.
Or just mean it's not a good idea now.
It's a quality factor, not a quantity. Yeah. Because I can come up with a bunch of little ideas of the reason why, but if there's one major idea of why not, you can see.
We're broke.
Yeah.
We're broke.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, again, we want you to use Ben Franklin. So we're going to ask you this week as part of your homework, think about something you've been trying to make a decision on, all right? And we don't want to create any problems here, but maybe we've been talking about, I kind of like a new house, or I'd like a new car, I'd like a new job, want another baby, want to go to Italy. I mean, just find something that maybe you've informally been discussing, and we want you to go through this process, all right? Go through the Ben Franklin, do the plus minus, learn how to use this. You'll find it's a great tool to make all kinds of decisions with, great tool to teach your kids. Great tool to sit down with your kids when they're trying to make a decision, show them how to do plus minus. And so we want you to do that this week and share that with us on Your Marriage Matters Facebook group, or share this on the podcast page. There's room there for you to make comments and create discussion as well. So, babe, one of the things that I've not always been good at, but I'm getting better, I want to get really good at, is learn how to listen to you, because a lot of the coolest things we have in our life is because you get so inspired and so excited. And I just want to continue to listen to you, because this life is so much more fun when I do. And because of that, I just love you.
Oh, thanks, hon. And I love you too.
Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Your Marriage Matters with the Jacobuses. If you have any questions you would like to see us answer, or an idea for a future episode, please go to www.yourmarriage-matters.com/QIF and let us know. We will do our very best to make it happen. And if you enjoyed the podcast, we encourage you to share it with your friends that are engaged or seriously dating. We are growing like crazy because you are passing it on. So thank you. That's it for today. We'll see you next week on Your Marriage Matters. Have a great conversation this week.